All right. Hello. We're back for playing games, and we're back on our old Sunday afternoon time slot, which means I didn't have to get up crazy early, which feels so good. Um, yeah. And here we're playing the game Vampire the Masquerade Swansong. So, for those of you not familiar with it, Vampire the Masquerade is um a ancient, I'm almost tempted to say, tabletop role playing game franchise by a company named White Wolf, I think, and apparently someone whose name is Ryan Hagen. Um, basically created the original world and idea. And there have been lots and lots of adaptations of Vampire the Masquerade to various media. Some better, some worse, some not really very close to the original. The most famous one is called Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, which is a computer role playing game from quite a while ago. Don't even remember. Is it 2005 ish or something? I should have looked up stuff like that so I can yak about this a little better informed here. Instead, I'm just winging it vaguely from what I remember. Anyway, it feels a little old, and you can still buy it these days, but everybody basically says get the fan patch that fixes all the issues with the game if you want to play it. And end of last year, start of this year, there was actually a company working on Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, and everyone was really looking forward to that. And then suddenly they went, the company we contracted to make that game, we're actually going to pick a different one. We'll announce soon which one. And since then, nothing has been heard. So I think Bloodlines 2 is pretty much dead. That said, Bloodlines 1 is really an amazing computer role-playing game. It has like all these little role-playing things, but it's also a little bit action-heavy with combat and stuff. And so this game is not really related to that game, except that they're all based on the same franchise. So we'll find out. I don't know. I have to say I haven't really played Bloodlines through myself. I've played parts of it, but I've never finished it. I know some things from streams and things, and it's a really cool game. But given it's so old, it kind of the game mechanics just were a bit too clunky for me to feel pleasant playing it. So I kind of always started and then at some point lost interest. That said, I think you should all try it out, and maybe you can get past the slightly clunky mechanics. Like, it has stealth mechanics, it has skill checks, it has, you can actually level up your skills and things like that. And it's a really fun, detailed world that it, of course, got from the role-playing game. And not unlike the original Fallout games, so Fallout 1, Fallout 2, that were still real role-playing games. Those were in an isometric perspective, though. Bloodlines is basically third person. So like chasing camera behind your character that you create. But anyway, basically, not unlike those Fallout games, if you played those, they're doing some really cool things with dialogue, depending on which skills you choose on your character, and you can choose different clans. So that's the one of the main things in Vampire the Masquerade in general is that the world, it's basically our world, but all the vampires are organized in clans, and clans are basically families, but families built by who embraced you, who turned you into a vampire. And each clan has their own abilities and their own kind of style. So there's, for example, the Nosferatu are a vampire clan, and those look really, really weird, monstrous, kind of like, Nosferatu in that old black and white movie. There are other vampire clans, for example, I think it's the Toreador, who are basically artists. And so depending on who changes you, certain things in you tend to be strengthened. And so they are drawn to people that already have that to kind of perfect them in some cases. And there are some very strict rules, and this so-called masquerade is basically that every vampire has to pretend to be human, and that no human may find out that vampires actually exist. And if you violate that masquerade, that's basically the only crime, or the most heinous crime that you can commit in this vampire society. And so every city kind of has a ruler, a prince, that is there, among other things, to enforce violations of this masquerade. That's basically the summary of Vampire the Masquerade. More the universe than this game. Now we won't continue. I just did the first scene or something to test that I could capture it. And I hope this works, because there's always, time of day differences and things like that cause surprises where suddenly it doesn't work after all, so let's hope. But let's make a new game and get into that game. I'm sure they will re-explain some of the things I mentioned in this game as they come up. So don't be too worried, but I just wanted to give you a general idea. That's the Vampire the Masquerade world, or the World of Darkness, as it's called, because Vampire the Masquerade is basically just one role-playing game. And there are different ones with werewolves and other things. And I think they even did one, all tabletop things. I think they even did one that was basically about human vampire hunters, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, and one thing I think I should mention is there was even, for one season, I think it's 8 episodes or something like that, a TV series by I think it was Aaron Spelling, the Beverly Hills 90210 guy. Or at least someone very soap related, and they did a Vampire the Masquerade inspired TV series called Kindred the Embraced. And now, personally, I actually like that show. It has all this vampire clans thing. It remixed some of the clans because they didn't want to introduce everything at once, but they needed certain types of characters and things. And yes, it's very soapy in degrees. But also, the problem is it takes quite some liberties, so hardcore Vampire the Masquerade fans generally do not like the TV series much. But if you're in general a fan of vampires and, you know, don't mind more soapy content on the level of a Marvel comic, you know, like how X-Men or Spider-Man have real-world problems or have problems with the love life and things like that, then you'll probably enjoy that show. The only problem with it is that the lead actor, Mark Frankel, he died in a motorcycle accident during the recording of the series, and so they basically had to cancel it. Some of you might also know that the name of that actor because he did a thinly veiled James Bond knockoff TV series called, I think it was, well, his character was called Carlton Dial. I'm trying to remember what the show itself actually was called. But basically it was, you know, James Bond, the series with the serial numbers filed off. And yeah, so that series is, well, those series are late 80s or early 90s, kind of, at least by temperament. I think they're basically all 90s. So, they might be a little painful to watch these days in stretches. But I think the Kindred the Embraced actually has held up surprisingly well, you know. It just hits all the vampire tropes. Basically. And it has a lot of, you know, Vampire the Masquerade role-playing game lore, you know, to back it up and keep it interesting and to make you feel like there's something behind all this. Even though this was quite before strictly serialized storytelling. But anyway, yeah, so if you're interested in stuff like that, I encourage you to check it out. And now we'll play this game. Oh, one more thing. This game, Vampire the Masquerade Swansong, I guess this is the swan from the song, but this game is by the same people who made the game The Council. So if you've seen that, one thing that you can expect is this is not a AAA game. You know, they didn't have that kind of money, so it'll probably feel a little stiff. It will, it focuses a lot on role-playing mechanics and less on, you know, fancy 3D combat or anything like that. This won't be another Assassin's Creed. So we'll see how good they get and how much we'll have to go, yeah, I guess they didn't have the budget. But so far I found it, you know, matching my expectations what little I've played. So we'll see. And we'll try it out today, and if I like it, then that's the game we will keep playing every Sunday until we finished it. So let's see. The Boston court is in turmoil. A code red alert has been issued, which means a major crisis has occurred. Leisha, and Galeb are summoned by the prince. That's September 4th, 2019. Vampires walk among us, unknowing we've built their cities, fought their wars, and sated their hunger. For centuries, these creatures have been organized into rival sects, the largest of which is the Camarilla. In its domains, Camarilla courts enforce the Masquerade, a global conspiracy hiding the existence of vampires from the mortal world. Breaking the Masquerade is punishable by final death. In Boston, vampire factions have long been at each other's throats. After much conflict, Hazel Iverson, the new prince, has sealed a fragile pact with a group of blood sorcerers, known as the Hartford Chantry. This alliance will not only provide stability to the domain, but will hand the prince the blood trade. The trafficking of blood and mortal victims that serves the needs of the vampire elite. Tonight, the undead will celebrate.
I'll just get this going. There, ready. We're all set. Now, to begin, tell me, what do you see?
I don't know.
Okay. Try this. Focus on your vision.
No, it's happening.
What's happening?
No, it's too late. It's too late now. They're coming. Did you feel it too?
Take your stuff. We're getting out of here. We've got a problem.
Call them back.
What's going on?
It's the prince. We must go quickly.
Come on. Damn it. Hurry up.
Calm down. Maybe it has nothing to do with the party.
You know full well I was in charge of it. If anything goes wrong, it's my head on the chopping block. Fuck. Damn it! It took Hazel months to convince the Hartford Chantry to ally themselves with us. So they finally accept, and then bam, a code red. There's never been a code red in Boston, damn it! This has gotta be bad, MM.
Alright, since we've got a little bit of a pause here, let's summarize what we've seen so far, because that was interesting. So we've seen, I guess, a vision someone had, and we've seen a lot of the characters we just saw. So April and Hazel Iverson, those two, you know, where one went to the other and said, we have a problem, and then he said, call them back. those two we've seen seemingly dead in that vision. Also, the guy who was feeding Caleb, we saw him dead. I think that was it so far. Nobody else we know, though there were a few more people that we saw. So that will be interesting how that turns out, whether that really means... because one thing, I think that's not a spoiler, just something I know about the game, is we will be playing as 3 different characters. MM here is one of them. Caleb is another. And the woman in front of the mirror, Leisha, I think was her name. At least that was what that band said. Maybe that was the little girl's name, I don't know. But we'll be playing as her as well. So those, we've just seen our playable characters. And so it'll be interesting to see, like, will we lose one of our player characters? Alright, dialogue, skills. In a dialogue, some answers require the use of your skills. Your skill level is compared with that of your opponent. The higher rating wins. You cannot use a skill if its rating is 0. Willpower, 12, okay. Using a skill consumes willpower. If your opponent wins, you gain a few willpower at the end of the dialogue. Okay, so that means if we lose, we just use up willpower, but we could strategically lose to restore willpower, I guess? Okay. So we'll see. Oh, by the way, hi Ada, didn't say hi there. Yeah, good intro, didn't know all that. Thanks. Okay, so... Okay, and so we don't have persuasion, so that's 0 success. But we do have 2 points psychology, so we have a 100% success here. So I guess that's the only answer we can give. Because yeah, we can't click that one even.
It's not like you had anything to do with it. I'm sure...
You don't get it. I was in charge of organizing the party.
But security is Jara's problem,
Yeah,
normally.
except Jara is a member of the Primogen. I'm not.
But you're a harpy. The prince will cover you. You know she's always looking for an excuse to take him down a notch.
We'll see.
What do we do next?
When everyone's safe, we move on to phase 2. We clean house.
Whoops. That hair seems to be slightly problematic for this game engine. Like, it's been hanging through his throat for a while and now it's just plopped over there. So I guess that's something we can look forward to, some funny hair antics.
What do you mean by we clean house?
Getting rid of our archives, our documents, anything that might betray our network and relationships.
Did you say this is the first Code Red in Boston?
Ever since the fall of London, protocol is no longer a laughing matter.
Whatever. They've been harping on that for 4 years now. They took away our internet access. Our smartphones.
It's called risk mitigation, that's all. A code red is an alarm signal that's sent to everyone to say, watch out, we're all in danger. And everyone runs to shelter at the nearest safe house. For us, it's with the prince. It could have been worse.
I'd have preferred worse.
You're not even listening to me.
Okay, I'm not really sure. I guess we'll learn during the game. But it sounds kind of like they've done something forbidden. And are worried. And are preparing to flee. She has some cool outfit stuff going on, by the way. Like with all that gold, the game's cover actually shows that. That basically like her hands and upper arms is kind of covered in gold paint. Very fashionable, fancy stuff.
What comes after phase 2?
Just pray that it never comes to that.
Come on, tell me.
We run, we leave everything behind, and we go into hiding. As far from here as we can.
There's no way I'm leaving Boston. Everything I have is right here in the city. It took me years to build my clubs. I've worked too hard to give it up now.
You won't have a choice. I know you hate coming here. Are you gonna be alright?
What do you think? I know how to behave, Jay.
Yeah, I know. Just keep your cool and it'll be fine.
Ah, my little darlings. You're here at last. The fear that something horrible had happened to you terrified me.
No call for theatrics, April.
The prince asked to see you as soon as you arrived, Mem. I wouldn't dilly-dally if I were you. As for you, Journey, someone's triggered a code red. If anything has happened over there, I'll hold you personally responsible.
Alright, dialogue disciplines. Vampires have supernatural abilities, usually inherited from their clan. Disciplines. Some disciplines can be used in dialogues. As with skills, the higher level wins. Not all disciplines are available to all vampires. Some mortals may possess certain powers, although most have no defense against disciplines. Using a discipline generates hunger. Hunger has a value that cannot be exceeded. This limits a vampire's use of their powers. A vampire at their hunger limit risks losing control, attacking and feeding on the closest mortal. Alright, we cannot back Journey up. That's unfortunate, because we don't have persuasion. But we do have presence, which will, I guess, increase our hunger. But it's also 0 success. So I guess, well, it's the only choice. Latter.
You know, back in the day, nobody could bat an eyelash without you knowing about it. You must know exactly what Jay is being blamed for, don't you?
Mem. My dear Mem. I adore you. Really, I do. But darling, please. You're way out of your league here. This alliance with the Hartford Chantry is crucial. The prince is on edge. We can't get through to anyone over there.
What does this have to do with Jay?
She was in charge of the whole thing, for goodness sake. Listen, both of you. From now on, I don't want to hear another word out of either of you. The prince is furious. Journey, you're coming with me.
I don't see why.
And as for you, Hazel wants to see you. Right now.
That didn't go well. Alright, Q is show goals. Answer the prince's summons. What was that in the lower left for a moment? Ah, it's gone now. Okay, and we're a little up on hunger. We have about 4 drops left, I guess. And we can't run. That's annoying. But now you can see like all that gold stuff that she has going on. Very fashionable.
It's gonna be a long night.
Miss Lewis, welcome.
They apparently have the same voice. Can we go in here anywhere? Doesn't look like it. Interesting though, I think she looks, yeah, she looks at...
Can I help you with something?
Okay, we can't really talk to them in any way.
Miss Lewis.
Okay. Still only walking. It's a fancy building. It's a good mix between skyscraper and Mayan temple.
Who's she, Caleb?
Emem Lewis.
She smiles like a toreador.
Letters etched in bold right upon her teeth.
What about that bearded guy who's swallowing his bile?
Dejan Siaka.
A Tremere warlock, then?
Keep him at a healthy distance. With a sideward glance, he could make the blood in your veins boil.
Is court attendance usually this sparse?
So his name is Caleb Bazari, and apparently he is an eternal protector. That's interesting. So, and she's with him again. Alright. He looks a bit like, I guess it's mostly the beard and like the general, yeah, I think it's mostly the hairstyle. But he reminds me a bit of the protagonist of the game Vampire. So like Vampire with a Y. Which is... I don't think it's the same studio, but it's a similar... Like the engine has similar stiffness to it, I guess. Okay, so she asked whether court attendance is so low.
Under ordinary circumstances, there would be more of us here.
Is it because of the Code Red?
Could be. We should have all been at that party. But a Code Red is a Code Red. No one can leave. I'd hate to be Caius right about now.
Why?
He's second honcho of house security. This promises to be a busy night.
I know what you mean. It's one thing to have been told that the Nosferatu don't age well. It's another thing to see it for yourself.
It's by no fault of their own.
Do you think you'll be able to ask the prince tonight if you can embrace me?
No. Now is no longer the time.
And he is your child?
Mr. Beryl Underwood.
Oh, so we only get... These are exclusive choices. We don't get to go through.
Tread lightly. He's a member of the Primogen.
They're the check to the prince's power.
The check and balance. They backed Hazel when she rose to power after Quentin King. They'd hoped to control her.
What? Things didn't go as planned?
I just have a feeling she will surprise them. Never forget that the court is a chessboard. We are monsters, and we sacrifice pawns. If you want to be a major piece, then behave accordingly.
But
Nothing can happen to you here. We're in the prince's house. She must be finished by now. Wait for me. This won't take long.
It's out of the question, MM. I won't let her get away with this.
All right. Calm down, Dijon.
Where's Journey?
What's it to you?
Don't start with me. She was in charge of the party. She has to take responsibility for this.
Leave her out of it.
It's too late for that. Don't waste your time covering for her. She's not a kid anymore. I haven't heard from my child, and no one's able to get through to them over there.
Go on then. Go and save Imani and stop wasting your breath.
There are rules. Need I remind you? We're all stuck here.
You're such a good boy.
You'll never change.
Dijon!
What? Oh, come on, Hilda, she needs to grow up.
leave us.
I don't need your help.
Mem, please.
Stop calling me that.
I was worried about you.
You still haven't moved on, have you? You're always getting in my way.
Lower your voice. People are staring.
Alright, that was interesting. So we're already knee-deep in mechanics and in court intrigue, I guess is what you would call it. Hilda McAndrews. I wonder who she is. Oh, and I guess there's an airplane outside. Ooh. Dialogue. Focus. Focus allows you to temporarily increase a skill by 1 or 2 levels. The more you increase your focus, the more the willpower cost increases. Knee deep in the soap opera. Yeah, maybe. Although, I mean, you know, Vampire the Masquerade itself is not really soap opera. That was more that TV series, so maybe not. We'll see. Okay, willpower cost matches how you increase your focus. To be focused, a skill must have a minimum score of 1 point. Disciplines or knowledge cannot be focused. Okay. Okay, now they're telling us to focus, I guess. Ah, okay. Dialogue tie. If the skill or discipline levels are the same, the outcome of the conflict is uncertain. The chance of victory can be influenced by a number of bonuses or penalties, as well as spending experience points. Okay, so I can turn it up. But apparently only to 3. Alright. What intimidation? We have 0, so we cannot focus on intimidation. Aw. What was that? Her number suddenly went off? Opponent behavior. Focus. Your opponents can also focus their own skills. Unlike you, focus only allows them to increase their skill level by 1 level. Player behavior. The risk of opponent focus is represented by a percentage. The more aggressive you are, skill focus, use of disciplines, the more the risk of opponent focus increases. Alright.
Do you know what this code red is all about? You're in the Primogen. You must know something.
I'm in the same boat as the rest of you. Apparently, it was from one of Moore's retainers. That's all I know.
Who's that?
Jason Moore. Don't you remember him? He's the human who manages our interests when the sun comes up. He handles our assets, errands with the banks.
What does he have to do with this?
I don't know. It now seems that Miss Hazel Iverson, the mighty Prince of Boston, is no longer on speaking terms with the Primogen. As if now were the ideal time.
She asked to see me. Do you know why?
My best guess is that she'd like to talk to you about Journey, of course. I always warned you that girl was trouble.
Yeah, sure. I've gotta go. Hazel must be upstairs. I'd better hurry.
What about Jara? I haven't seen her.
Councillor Drury is not here, nor is Dr. Dunham. Mr. Leto's teams are trying to reach them, but...
Nobody's answering?
No.
That was some horrific... Like, either... It was... Well, I guess it was both. It was horrific timing on the part of the engine that he said, I've tried to contact her, but... Yeah, what? Nobody's answering, or whatever her answer was. And, on the other hand, also, the actor didn't keep the sentence melody. Like, as an actor, usually when you say a sentence that you know must be unfinished, then what you have to do is think about a word you would say afterwards. And speak the sentence like that. You know, so he would have to think, I've tried to contact her, but none of my channels can be reached, or something like that, you know? And then you have the sentence melody of, I've tried to reach her, but... You know, like, your voice goes up. Whereas, he said, I've tried to reach her, but... Like, he tried to reach her butt? What? No! Dude! Learn to voice act. No, I don't know, so that was a little weird. I don't know what happened there, if that was placeholder dialogue they forgot to remove, or voice actor had a bad day, voice director had some weird idea. Or if this is something we'll find out later, where it's like, oh, they're just acting this, and they knew all along.
Hazel's waiting.
MM.
Okay, no idea. This guy is here, that's interesting too. That happens when the speakers have no guidance and get only one take. Yeah. Although I would expect, you know, like a voice actor reading that line and going, okay, I have to pretend. But I don't know. Yeah, maybe he thought it was less, you know, being interrupted and more, you know, letting the end of the sentence stand there, either, you know, because you're not supposed to say it, or out of, you know, respect for the feelings of whoever he's talking to. I don't know.
They've all got such long faces. Hey, Abby.
Hey, MM.
Abby, do you know what's going on?
I'm sorry, but I can't.
Please? I feel like I've been plopped down in the middle of a minefield.
There are rumors about Journey. Rumors about how this is all her fault. Did you know that Jay was in charge of the party?
Shit. I bet she's gonna take the fall for whatever happened.
I don't think she's involved, but we've got to be on our guard. They're all on edge. Watch out.
It's interesting that they all have these little... Oh, actually, in her case, okay, now she's using it like a phone, which is a bit weird. It looked more like a pager, like especially the way she looks on it now. So that's a bit weird. What do you do? Oh, I can run, finally. Good.
Sorry, that's not possible.
Okay. That was cool though, like him actually getting a gesture for that. Let's try this guy first, because obviously he's probably someone we can talk to.
Sorry, ma'am. You can't come through here. Can I help you?
It's interesting. He is one of the guys who has the same voice as the watchman out there. It's a bit obvious. You know, I think at the least... But I guess they expect us to understand, oh yeah, if you see a guy in a red suit with a black mask, that's supposed to be a no entrance sign. You don't need to bother talking with them. So maybe they go, okay, we'll just give them the same message. So that one becomes clear. And they become scenery more than people. Although then why does he look different? Is that because there's a chance of him leaving at some point during the game and us getting through, or us talking to him and convincing him?
Not going to wait around all night.
Whereas these guys won't. Okay, he's not happy.
Ma'am, we haven't seen you here in ages now, have we?
It's not like I'm doing everything I can to stay the hell away from here.
Blunt and to the point, as usual. With a bit of luck, your suffering will be over soon. How's business these days?
Why? You want to invest?
Don't tempt me.
What is he interested in? My clubs aren't profitable enough for him. He has 4, so I can probably... Yeah, I have no chance of getting anywhere near him with the points I have to focus. So that question won't lead me anywhere. But that answer, I guess, will work.
I'm shocked to think you put so much as a penny into one of my clubs. They don't bring in enough for your taste, Beryl.
You're right. I'm not interested in them. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to be alone. I'm waiting for Caleb.
Okay, so he is one of Caleb's children. And he doesn't like MM. So I guess our player characters don't see eye to eye. And she's still up there. What was her name? Shu or something? Oh, I saw a shortcut for tab? Yeah. Codex. The Codex lists and explains many concepts from Swansong and the World of Darkness. The main characters you will meet are also listed on the Boston screen. Okay, there's a list of all the clans. I guess I don't think I'll go through these right away. According to Kindred mythology, so Kindred is the name the vampires have for themselves. According to Kindred mythology, Cain sired 3 childer, who in turn sired childer themselves. This 3rd generation came into being before the Great Flood, and some say it was their sins that called it down. The survivors, known as the Antediluvians. Antediluvians are, like, that word literally means before the flood. People from before the flood. Like, often that's used for referring to people from Atlantis as well. Became the progenitors of the modern clans. Each antediluvian's blood endures in their descendants, feeding the common powers, weaknesses, and perhaps even the behaviors and beliefs of kindred who belong to the clan they begat. Tonight there are 13 distinct clans, along with innumerable minor bloodlines, as well as the caitiff and thin bloods, who prouder and more powerful lineages reject. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 clans is what they mentioned. Well, if they're all this short, then maybe we can do them. Let's see. Okay, let's do them. We like to read. And there's so much lore behind Vampire the Masquerade. Brujah, the Learned Clan, Rabble. The dream of the Learned Clan is a world where all injustice has been eliminated and the living and the undead can coexist in peace. They say it is for love of the mortals that they lead them against their masters. In truth, they may simply rage against a distant or non-existent god they can never fight, against a curse that can never end. Theirs is a dream that poisons everything it touches. As they infiltrate or instigate revolutions, their hunger and passion ensure that blood will flow, innocents die, and peace never be attained. Clan Brujah have always embraced from the ranks of those sympathetic to counterculture and revolution. They seek out allies who question normative ideas, and recognizing the fire of the oppressed, they gravitate toward the underdog. Common perception place punks, gang members, maladjusted immigrants rejected by the society that should protect them, and placard-carrying and Molotov-wielding rioters among the Brujah. While the clan definitely includes substantial numbers of vocal and visible outsiders, their desire for rebellion reaches as deep as the fraudster ripping off his own company, the lawyer representing the poor pro bono, the neo-Nazi claiming to be alt-right, and the basement dweller downloading thousands of movies illegally for redistribution on streaming sites. Fledglings embraced to fight and protest are commonly known as Rubble. Okay, so Rabble, as mentioned here, are basically their cannon fodder. Okay. The Brujah can be passionate fighters, but also critical thinkers. The clan activists are often very different from the clan theorists. On many occasions, the latter are embraced from former gender studies. On many occasions, the latter are embraced from former gender studies or sociology students, those who have survived near-death experiences, and people who have in other ways suffered and endured great personal loss. The philosophical Brujah, known as Hellenes, believe the best method of dismantling the establishment is to understand the social and cultural systems that allow it to exist in the first place. Okay. Oh, and now we hear the caitiff. The clanless, orphans. Okay, that's what that meant. Okay. Not all kindred inherit the curse of one of the 13. Some don't care what their lineage is. Certain bloodlines of kindred have always been clanless. A stretch. Okay. Alright. Not all kindred inherit the curse of one of the 13. Some don't care what their lineage is. Certain bloodlines of kindred have always been clanless, and sometimes children of the clans are just born different. They're often discarded, exiled, or choose to distance themselves from the clans that despise them.
Ich will Deutsch.
Jeez, I'm supposed to read that in a German accent? Okay. Pure vampires, the caitiff, make up for what they lose in respect and pedigree by flexible blood and the absence of a crippling bane. Proud or ashamed of their clanless nature as they may be, these creatures have no family and represents vampirism at its purest and most individualistic. Many kindred incorrectly assume all caitiff are created accidentally, that the clanless target no mortals for the embrace. This view is outdated and ignorant. These nights, the clanless are increasingly becoming a force to be reckoned with. So more disparate, individualistic, and chaotic than their cousins, they are all survivors, and they have begun to gather, build alliances, and make children of their own. The caitiff who seek out mortals to perform the embrace generally target the strong-willed and those used to uncommon hardship. A caitiff's position in the hierarchy of the kindred is at the bottom, just above the thin-blooded who should not have been born at all, and they are forced to fight for their place or fall and be forgotten. The caitiffs see little point in embracing mortals unlikely to make it through the night on their own. While the caitiff have begun to purposefully increase their numbers, most are still created when a fledgling embraced into one of the clans does not form an attachment with their ancestral blood and does not exhibit the telltale signs of their clan's curse. When other kindred talk of the caitiff, they tell tales of Nosferatu abandoned for weeks on end without ever developing any hideousness, painfully sane Malkavians, and young Ventru able to feed from whomever they want. Unwilling to accept such a child as one of their own, the clan abandons them. Or the child senses in their blood that they do not belong, despite their sire's protests. The creation of a caitiff is not an exact science, and many abandoned children still manifest some of the characteristics of their parent clan, despite the absence of their bane. Alright. Gangrel. Wolves, animals, ferals. A hunger older than mankind burns inside the wolves. When other kindred curse their appetites and choose the gilded cage of the city and the leash of social hierarchy, the wolves accept the beast as a part of themselves and run free. Crossing borders between species, nations, and domains with the ease of perfect predators, they belong to the wild and the wild belongs to them. To think of them as noble savages is perilous, as the animals have little respect for the arrogance of civilization, and only the strongest survive their bloody hunts and savage initiations. Trading stories of war and the secret histories of their kind around campfires lit with the bones of their oppressors, they have turned their backs on the Camarilla and fight tooth and claw to escape the endless plots of their fellow kindred. Clan Gangrel are outcasts, wanderers, rogues, and hunters. They make havens in the poorest parts of the city and feel no shame for doing so. They claim few domains as their own, but defer to no prince. If a feral enters a city, the prince will either accept it or have to fight the feral to get them to back down. Gangrel embrace from the ranks of survivors and fighters, leaders of prison crews and gangs, explorers, urban and otherwise, and any kind who sees the world as something to traverse instead of something to hide from. So kine is their word for regular humans. Muggles, so to say. A child may be a challenge, but the clan follows rituals and initiations to ensure the fledgling is worth the time. Whoops. Okay. My microphone audio just did something weird. Give me a second. Let's see. That didn't fix anything. Okay. Short unplug again. Ouch. Sorry about that, but we're back. Apologies for that crackle there. Alright, where were we? A child may be a challenge, but the clan follows rituals and initiations to ensure the fledgling is worth the time. Success means a new honored member of the clan. Failure means simply a forgettable reject or a pile of ash. Any mortal capable of projecting their... Again. Any mortal capable of projecting their will onto others, leading a group from disaster to success, or fighting impossible odds draws the clan's attention. This fact results in a symptom known as too many chiefs when the clan consists of more leaders than followers. Customs encourage fights for dominance, but these rarely last until final death, as gangrel elders advocate against taking competition for authority personally, instead encouraging a culture of healthy rivalry. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure we should go through all of that. So, Malkavian, as you might have guessed from the previous one, is the clan of basically everyone who joins that clan goes mad. And they're all a little weird, but also a little, I guess, more creative in some ways. So sometimes they, you know, find out things that others wouldn't or something. Nosferatu are basically the scary one. Toreador are the artsy ones, and Tremere and Ventru, I've forgotten what they were. Especially since the Tremere and Ventru were completely different in the animated series, so I always have to kind of... not animated, TV series. I guess we can go for those at least, and then maybe do the other later. Tremere, usurpers, warlocks. A hermetic mage in 8th century Romania, Tremere was the leader of a cabal of magic users rightfully feared for their obsession with knowledge and power. Oh yeah, by the way, there's a lot of, like, pastiche of all sorts of historical things, as you've probably noticed from some of the names in the previous descriptions. Able to prolong his life unnaturally for centuries, his powers eventually lessened, and his grip on youth became shaky. Unable or unwilling to accept his own mortality, Tremere cast his eyes on the hallowed secret of immortality. In his greed, the mage instigated the most terrifying magical experiments ever conducted, damning himself and his followers to a hell of their own making. Thousands of mortals were murdered, and hundreds of kindred vivisected and drained in ritual circles before Tremere and his cultists thought they had found the elixir of life. How surprised they were to have discovered the curse of Cain. Terrified, they died and woke again to an eternity of unlife and hunger, cut off from their craft. In a mockery of their former magical rituals, now only fresh blood allows the Tremere to cast their thaumaturgic spells to twist reality. After the Second Inquisition destroyed the Prime Chantry in Vienna in 2008, the Tremere fell from grey eminences to personae non grata in many regions. The arrogance of the pyramid had made the usurpers few friends, but the need for sorcery has not disappeared. If anything, it grows as the cursed blood shifts in the veins of the kindred. Okay, that's interesting that they have had a Second Inquisition in 2008 in Vampire the Masquerade. That's basically information that's newer than anything I knew about Vampire the Masquerade, because I've read some of the early stuff and saw that TV series, which was, I think, in the 90s, so that hadn't been decided on yet. Without the pyramid ordering them into rank and value, the warlocks find themselves competing with their fellow kindred and increasingly with each other for anything that might allow them to regain some of their former power. A clan-wide chase for artifacts and grimoires belonging to their ashen ancestors rival the social intrigues in ugliness, and the alliance with the Camarilla is an oft-used weapon between the houses of Clan Tremere. Meanwhile, the term mercenary magus is becoming increasingly widespread, as warlocks who were formerly bound by the will of their masters find themselves free to serve for whatever price they choose. Tremere serve in 3 ways. The Warlocks serve the other clans with occult expertise, they serve the Camarilla with blood sorcery, and they serve themselves with their missions to grasp power. Though more Tremere ascend to praxis these knights than ever before, they still claim fewer thrones worldwide than Clan Nosferatu. In truth, most Warlocks acknowledge that becoming the prince is only useful if it helps them expand their knowledge. Tremere see true power as knowing the ways of shaping the world, having access to the right blood, and owning the rarest of ancient artifacts. As the Tremere ally with confused coteries seeking them out, I think coteries are basically like the smallest family union. I think it's kind of like coterie, house, clan, sect, and then just everyone. I think as the Tremere ally with confused coteries seeking them out, hunt for well-protected relics and artifacts, or closely analyze fragments of lore relating to the Cainite mythos, all the while miserly guarding their secrets from each other, they are all united in their thirst for knowledge. A kindred who wishes to understand a piece of their history will do well to approach the Tremere for answers, as long as they are at peace with sharing a few secrets of their own, knowingly or otherwise. Okay, so they are kind of the information brokers now. Interesting. Ventru, the clan of kings, blue bloods. In their own eyes, only the clan of kings has the restraint, the wisdom, the control, and the pedigree to lead their kind through the night. Throughout their time as god-kings of ancient Babylon, or lords and ladies of the Dark Ages, to their contemporary roles as guardians of royal blood, majority shareholders, and campaign fund backers, they have been obsessed with the impulse to rule. They collect their tithes in the form of precious blood, ensuring the growth of their legacy. While many other clans claim positions of influence in politics and business, no one can rival the Ventru in the game of pure power and wealth. But lately their arrogant projections as divinely chosen rulers, better fit to lead than any other clan, have begun to falter. Time is running out. As they feel their privileges slipping through their fingers, the Ventru tighten their grip and fight fang and claw to remain in control as the masters of their kind. Clan Ventru has long been the leaders of the Camarilla, holding more positions of power than any other clan, and they are loath to give that up. Even after losing their most prominent representative to a Bruja assassination, the Ventru continue to maintain that they are destined to rule all kindred, no matter the sacrifices involved. The Ventru believe in the strength of tradition and lineage. The embrace is one of their most important rituals, and the choice of child affects the way other members of the clan treat the sire. Ventru therefore aim to embrace overachievers, politically or financially powerful kind, or those with a talent that sets them apart from the masses. These knights the Ventru are cautious. The talentless fall by the wayside, while the best blend in with humanity as bankers, shadow directors, reclusive moguls, and chiefs of staff. No longer can a Ventru openly lead a board or take a prominent position in mortal community. They resent having to influence the surroundings from the shadows, but know that the risk of a fatal masquerade breach is too high to risk anything else. The Ventru are the establishment. They set and maintain the rules, punishing those who break them, and occasionally rewarding those who follow. Their critics consider them tyrants or the jailers of other kindred. The uncomfortable truth is that without them, the Masquerade and the Camarilla with it would have fallen long ago. The Ventru are more loyal to their cause these nights than ever before, adversity only making them more determined to succeed and more certain that they have the right to do whatever it takes. It's a nice little detail that they always say these nights instead of these days. Okay, and then there are the sects. The Camarilla. Ah, okay. There's not actually an entry on the Camarilla. And actually, there's something they don't... So basically, there are different groups. Like, there's the Camarilla, which is the group that has the masquerade, and then there are, in a few areas, others. Anarchs, I guess. I'm not sure if that's a different name, but there was also the so-called Sabbat. Could be that they changed that. I don't know, but basically it's, in the story, always there's this orderly and kind of conservative construct, and there's this more anarchist or sometimes even quote-unquote evil construct that opposes them. And of course both can be really bad to be in in this world, because the Vampire the Masquerade world is scary. Okay, I had hoped that it would just be a summary of Camarilla and this. So let's skip that for now. Let's see. Here's a description of coterie. A small group of kindred united by the need for support and sometimes common interests. Yeah, so basically it's the smallest unit. Any other... I guess we can look these up as we need. Hatford Chantry might be interesting because that actually came up as allies of the prince. While New England certainly isn't lacking in vampire strongholds, the Hartford Chantry is the most famous Tremere haven. Okay, they're Tremere. A direct rival to the Salem Chantry, Hartford has held its own for several centuries, during which it was subject to infighting, enemy attacks, and turf wars. Its influence, which fluctuated over the years, greatly increased under the reign of John Rice, who led the domain until 2014. His successor, Deneb Osborne, seems intent on maintaining his same momentum in the years to come, as demonstrated by the recent détente between Hartford and Boston. Alright, what's the Institute? Kindred must blend in among the mortal masses. Some Malkavian believe they need to be treated in order to do this, by reducing the delusions that make them stand out. The previous Prince of Boston, Quentin King, created an asylum where members of his clan could seek treatment, the Institute. Oh, interesting. Okay. And here's a little bit about our characters. I think we might want to look into that. M.M. Lewis, founder of the Black Rattlers. Clan Toreador. Okay, so... I forgot her name. Xun or something? The Caleb's friend. She identified as a Toreador correctly. Date of embrace 1929. Men of Bronze. Born in Harlem in 1901, MM grew up in a family of poor African-American performers. Her father Mason was a musician by night and window washer by day. Her mother Clara sang when she was not taking care of her 4 children. When he was drafted in 1917, MM's father enlisted in the 15th Regiment of the New York National Guard, the Harlem Hellfighters, and participated in the liberation of France. He joined a jazz band in his unit that became a phenomenal success after the war ended. Pathé Studios had them record an album, which would become the first jazz record to be played non-stop on French phonographs. Following this success, Mason decided to bring his family to Paris and to make a living playing his music in the jazz clubs that were beginning to sprout up throughout the capital. Paris. MM was 17 years old and was a dancer. She spent time with the elite who would come to listen to her father, and it took little time for her to get noticed. She discovered the Folies Bergère and their international shows. She auditioned for it and passed with flying colors. From odd jobs backstage to subbing in for other performers, she proved herself and became a headline act at just 21 years old. Her burlesque stripping act took Paris by storm, making her extremely popular. MM began traveling through Europe, dancing to packed houses in the hottest cabarets. MM was young, beautiful, and radiant. Her life was the night, as the champagne and money flowed. She was determined and alluring, the embodiment of a free and independent woman in the early 20th century. She had a fiery temperament that soon attracted the attention of Europe's divas. To Die in Your Arms. December 1923. MM performed 8 times at the Vienna Carl Theater. On the first night, she was introduced to Hilda McAndrews by the theater director outside her dressing room. MM was immediately captivated by this mysterious aristocrat who attended each of her performances. They spent the nights that followed in bars, exchanging stories about their lives and their art, their passions and their struggles. Hilda was cultured, charismatic, and politically engaged in the suffragette movement and the women's artistic community. MM, to her surprise, fell under her spell and gave in to this irresistible attraction. A passionate relationship formed right away between the two women, who became inseparable. Hilda confided in MM and told her about her vampiric nature over the course of the next 3 years. For their love to endure, but also seduced by the promise of eternal youth, MM asked to be sired right away. It would take yet another 3 years, however, before Hilda managed to get the local prince to agree to it. That's always, you can't just make someone a vampire. You have to be allowed to by the prince. Which, of course gives the prince a lot of power. Because if the prince just doesn't give a clan permission to embrace people in their area, then that clan will slowly die out in that area, basically. The prince feared that the young woman's notoriety could be a danger to the masquerade. With the prince's blessing at last, Hilda threw a spectacular celebration in honor of her companion, whom she would embrace at the end of this memorable evening. The Sound of Boots. Having lived in Vienna since their meeting at the Carl Theater, Hilda and MM left Australia in 1934 for Paris, then Bordeaux. Alas, France's surrender in 1940 forced the couple to reconsider their plans. With the help of her contacts in London, Hilda managed to negotiate a crossing to Boston, her hometown. Though hesitant at first, the city's Malkavian prince, Quentin King, finally granted them asylum. MM and Hilda were introduced to the court, where 50 years of intrigue would bring their passion to its inevitable end. Queen of the Night. Oh yeah, who's stopping them from making a whole secret vampire army without the prince's knowledge? Well, to make an army, you need to bring in food, you need to bring in weapons, you need to bring in armors. That's not something you do in quiet. Austria, not Austria. Did I say Australia? I hope I said Austria every time. Queen of the Night. Following her breakup with Hilda, MM moved to a suburban Boston neighborhood far away from King, political schemes, and her sire. The area, however, with its infamous reputation due to the large population of thin bloods and anarch sympathizers, did not make for a wise investment. But MM refused to give up. She renovated a small theater and transformed it into a club that she named the Black Rattlers, in homage to her father's battalion. Then she returned to the stage and progressively regained her visibility and reputation. She met kindred from all walks of unlife and, against all odds, managed to bring renewal to the neighborhood, which the Bostonian youth began to frequent. The Black Rattlers grew more prominent and became one of the city's leading clubs, where anyone was welcome, regardless of their clan, faction, or origin. In 10 years, MM had managed to create a zone of peace, where vampires from the Camarilla and Thin Bloods could sit together and listen to the finest jazz. It was here that she met Hazel Iverson. Charmed by the Ventru's temperament and ideas, MM sympathized with Iverson, who claimed the throne of Boston in 2014. Although the departure of Quentin King and his hordes of minions delighted MM, she still obstinately refused to return to the court. The only thing that mattered to her were her clubs. She had 3 now, clubs with a growing social and political power that Hazel had not forgotten. Caleb Bassery, protector of the Camarilla. the imperial throne in date of embrace 1745, so he's old. In 1710, in Constantinople, Mirisha, the king's light, gave birth to Shehzad Suleiman, her firstborn son. Mirisha, whose birth name was Jeannette de Bazory, left France and joined the harem of Ahmed III, Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, the previous year, and quickly became his favorite. She was a doting mother who was constantly concerned about the child who was destined to inherit his father's throne. Suleiman, for his part, was given an excellent education, learned about courtly life with his younger brother, Shehzad Mustafa. The two brothers had very different personalities. While Suleiman was quiet, stubborn, and adventurous, Mustafa was more versatile and fearful. The fall. In 1730, their father, Ahmed III, became unpopular, and the Janissaries revolted against him, and forced him to abdicate in favor of his nephew. From that moment on, the seething Suleiman began plotting revenge in the long term to restore his father to the throne. Although he was aware of the problems this would cause, he felt that the only thing to do was to put the rightful ruler back on his throne. His mother, having heard of this, made him promise to give up his plan and disappear before the Janissaries could kill him. She convinced him to leave for the west by faking his death. Suleiman secretly set sail one night in 1732. Mirisha died a few weeks later out of grief over the loss of her son, it was said. However, the truth was quite different. Having caught wind of her betrayal, the Janissaries murdered her. New life. The boat that belonged to Jeannette de Bazory's family took Suleiman to the port of Antwerp, where, in homage to his mother, he called himself Galeb Bazory. He was adopted by a family of diamond merchants who traded between Europe and the New World, and whose newfound fortune grew rapidly. Under their guidance, Galeb sailed the oceans in search of new business ventures. He honed his knowledge of astronomy and mathematics, forged relationships around the globe, and used the opportunity to weave an impressive web of influence. His business dealings brought him into contact with aristocrats, whose conventions he mastered, as well as with drunken sailors whom he learned to manage. Out of necessity, he became a leader. His natural authority and his ability to adapt won him respect. Little by little, his life on the deck of the ship became his only source of pleasure. He never set foot in his native land again. It was through sailors that he learned of his mother's death, followed by that of his father, and finally his brother Mustafa III's ascension to the throne. A throne that could have been his, a family he could have saved. No matter how far he sailed, these thoughts were always with him. The embrace. During a stop in Cadiz in 1740, he met Jean-Baptiste Tavernier, a renowned French explorer and merchant who had supposedly died in Moscow in 1689. In reality, he was a Ventru, seeking to expand his control of the diamond trade at all costs. The collaboration between the two men proved to be fruitful, even beyond Tavernier's expectations. Bazory's effectiveness and his discretion delighted him. In the space of a few years, their professional dealings were enriched by secrets, and the young sailor saw in his mentor the father figure he had never really had. One calm night after a particularly turbulent Atlantic crossing, Galeb opened up to Tavernier a bit more and told him about his background. Tavernier understood what appealed to him about this young sailor, his nobility, which, although hidden, naturally emanated from him. A thought came to Tavernier, who had never sired anyone before. He began to treat Galeb like a true member of his family and spoke to him about the occult to gauge his reaction. Then came the thorny issue of revealing his true nature. Tavernier portrayed the embrace as a gift. It didn't take much to convince the young sailor of the value of agelessness. Galeb accepted. His embrace was painful and bitter. It took him several days to be able to tolerate the beast that would now gnaw at him for eternity. Tavernier attempted to focus his child's anger on the revenge he would get against those who had deprived him of his throne, but Galeb did not see things that way. His thirst for justice was replaced by a disgust for humankind and growing disinterest in their affairs. He now wished to rise above the kind, to use his eternity for previously impossible purposes. His sire, who saw a certain interest in it, let his child experiment. Galeb spent half a century roaming the 7 seas of the globe, getting rich by acquiring diamond mines and trading companies. He toyed with the laws of men, but scrupulously respected the principles that Tavernier had instilled in him. The mutually beneficial and balanced relationship continued until the early 19th century. A hunter's instincts. Under the pretext of wanting to share his love of nature and the great outdoors with Galeb, Jean-Baptiste invited him to go to the Mauricie region to meet an old acquaintance of his, the explorer Toussaint Charbonneau. The gangrel chose to establish his den in the heart of the forest and lived like an animal. Despite his sire's instructions, Galeb had difficulty finding Charbonneau. After a physical encounter, the trapper understood why Tavernier had sent him this venture, so he attempted to share his connection to the animal world with him, as he had done with his sire before him. While Galeb was not interested in his ability to communicate with animals, his talent at tracking prey seemed more worthy of a kindred. It even proved to be necessary in the midst of his forest for a palate as refined as his, which was not to be satisfied with just any kind of blood. With practice, Galeb was able to track down his prey on his own. Charbonneau even trained him to differentiate the essence of a mortal from that of a kindred, or even from that of a lupine. That's the aforementioned werewolves that also exist in this world. The onset of the winter season forced the men to part ways, Charbonneau heading back to the Pacific, Bazary returning to civilization with a new skill. Although he would never reveal this to his sire, he was thankful to him for having given him this opportunity. Settling down in Boston. In 1806, with the Napoleonic Wars tearing Europe apart, Galeb met James Underwood, who through the Sugar Trust controlled the refined sugar trade. With the United States under an embargo, Underwood's business was failing. Galeb mustered all his knowledge to organize a large-scale smuggling operation, amassing a small fortune in the process. Underwood and Bazary formed a close friendship. Beryl Underwood is the one he sired. Beryl Underwood was born in 1807 and inherited the business from his father, James. Okay, yeah. So that's the son, and he already knew the father. Galeb knew Beryl as he had watched him grow up. The 26-year-old heir asked the man he viewed as his mentor to stay with him and help him, and Galeb agreed for several reasons: his respect for his business-minded mortal whom he deemed worthy of his interest, his honor that urged him not to abandon the relationship he had with James, and the profits he could make. He felt that his future lay in the New World and that it was better to settle there as soon as possible. It was with the agreement of his sire that he moved to Boston for good. Tavernier sensed that Galeb had made great progress, and it was clear that the student had surpassed the master. He felt a kind of pride in this. While keeping his distance, he remained in regular contact with his child, treating him as an equal. It was on Galeb's advice that he moved to South Africa to set up new diamond mines. The child. Beryl Underwood exceeded Galeb's expectations. He was more talented than his father, and the venture had something to do with it. But a vampire cannot become involved with a mortal over the long term without compromising their identity. Over the years, Beryl's doubts led him to question Galeb, who gave him a frank answer. He admitted his monstrous nature to him. This was far from repellent to Beryl, who became more determined and asked Galeb to give him the embrace. Galeb had never thought of siring a child himself, so he put off the decision, and did not accept until 1869. Beryl's embrace was quick. He immediately felt empowered. His ambition knew no bounds, and he sought to enrich himself by any means necessary. The Sugar Trust became the center of an international conglomerate that extended beyond the sugar trade. Beryl was involved in every plot, every betrayal. Galeb began to be suspicious of him, and he withdrew, which Beryl did not forgive him for. Executor. Over the course of the 20th century, seeing Beryl's unscrupulous behavior corrupting the kind through the environmental and health impacts of his business, Galeb distanced himself from the business. He felt he had created a monster, a threat to all kindred. Quentin King, the Prince of Boston, offered him the position of executor of the prince, which he accepted as a means of escape. King made him one of his favorite tools, sending him to hunt down those who threatened the Boston Camarilla. After centuries of building a business empire, chasing opportunities, and eliminating competitors, Caleb derived satisfaction from the simple task of doing what he was told. He didn't count the kindred destroyed, the mortals killed, or the thin-blooded suppressed. He served his prince with his signature loyalty. When Beryl Underwood joined Quentin King's Primogen Council, Caleb grew weary. The Beckoning. In recent years, the elders have started to feel an increasingly insistent urge to travel. Tavernier was one of the first to give in. Tavernier was one of the first to give in. Not having been warned, Caleb considered this a betrayal. However, he also felt the same need. He was almost ready to give in to it, but King's disappearance changed everything. Underwood asked Caleb to become the new Prince of Boston. He hoped to be able to manipulate Caleb to serve his own interests, but Caleb knew his child all too well and refused the poisoned gift. So it was Hazel Iverson who became the Prince of Boston. Quickly, she surprised everyone by proving to be much less manipulable than expected, which was a pleasant surprise to Caleb. He then decided to put himself at her service. Iverson was happy to have a renowned ally like him and accepted. Okay, that's an interesting bit of background, that he could have been king and chose not to, or prince, rather, and chose not to, because he expected them to try to manipulate him, and then finding someone who wasn't manipulated who took the job, and now he's helping her. That's cool. Okay. One last wish. His interest in the Camarilla and his kind was renewed, as this new prince seemed to hold her own and had great plans for the future. It was during this same period that Caleb heard about a young mortal who had just graduated from MIT and had gone to Silicon Valley to found a startup specializing in the blue economy. He inquired about her and finally met her. Finally, he won her trust and offered to make her his ghoul, with the aim of embracing her in the near future. He hoped to make her the counterpart of Beryl's self-destructive drive. However, Hazel Iverson did not subscribe to the same policy as Quentin King and would not grant the right to sire so easily. She even saw it as a way to maintain control over her precious Caleb, who was forced to wait. Consumed by the beckoning, he could no longer bring himself to leave without having repaired what he considered to be his greatest mistake. Okay. So that's soon, I guess. I'll have to read her name somewhere. Sadly, she's not in here, apparently. Okay, we haven't met Leisha yet, so I think we should save her for later. We have... You know what, let's not... We've read enough already, I think. Let's finally go upstairs.
What about Hartford? Any word from the Warlocks?
No, we haven't had any contact since the party started.
Before I forget it, cheers.
Huh. What is taking so long?
All right. Go to the prince's floor.
What a shitty night. Hazel must be pissed. What the hell could she want with me?
But yeah, there's a lot of lore for us to read. Okay. So I guess that's a hospital. with slight gravity issues.
Is everything okay, Mom? Penny, for your thoughts?
Nothing, Pumpkin. What were you saying?
You saw pictures again? You're not going back to the Institute, are you?
No, don't fret. I'm gonna stay here with you now.
I don't like it when Richard takes you away.
He's my psychiatrist. He's helping me so I can be with you. Mom has a little trouble sometimes, remember? I see things that haven't happened yet. And I forget others.
Yes, I know. And you have to slumber so you can rest all alone sometimes. But 3 years was too long.
Alright, so without having read Halsey's bio, I'm guessing she's Malkavian because we did read about the Institute, which is for Malkavians.
But now we'll be together forever. We'll be inseparable.
Like 2 peas in a pod.
Yes, exactly.
Mom? What's going on? Why does everybody look so upset?
I think something serious is happening. I'm worried. I still haven't seen Richard. I looked for him so he could explain, but he can't be found.
So what do we do now?
I was told to wait here because Hazel wants to see us. There are grown-ups coming, and your mother needs to talk to them.
Oh, then I'll go hide, because grown-ups talk to me too much.
If you want, sweetie. But don't wander off. Go on. Show me what you do to make sure no one spots you.
Okay, here I go.
Leisha. It's been a while. Hey, MM. When did you get out? Just tonight. Hazel wanted to see me.
That means she's extremely worried about the situation.
That, or she's a major drama queen.
Okay, I guess we're Caleb now. I think he'll be a little more, you know, he's loyal. We let him be a little bit stuck up.
I know that you knew her before, but she's the leader of Boston now. You owe her respect before everyone, and in every circumstance. She is your prince.
Are you lecturing me? First Siaka, now you. Why won't anybody give me a break tonight? Maybe you asked for it.
Or maybe if you behaved in a manner more appropriate to the circumstances and our setting, then you'd better understand why everyone is so nervous.
So Dejan was the angry guy.
Siaka jumped down my throat. Was I supposed to let him take his nerves out on me? No, I'm sorry. That's not how things work, Bazori.
We must all remain calm and accept any help we can get, even from the most unusual sources.
That's surprising to hear, coming from a blue blood. At least your certainties come from a more solid source than a prophecy from a child of Malkov. You don't know what you're talking about. All I'm saying is that whatever the problem is, your hallucinations aren't gonna help us solve it.
she has differently sized irises. I only just noticed.
And yet, many of the things I saw ended up happening. Quentin King's disappearance, Hazel's rise to power, your breakup with Hilda too. But you're probably right. It's just Hazel and her flair for the dramatic.
Only time will tell.
Good evening, ladies, sir. The prince shall see you now.
Alright. Did you see District 9? The main character also had eyes like that for so. Yeah, I saw that. But that's, different. I mean, usually, I think you have differently sized irises, usually, like after a, what's it called? Not head trauma, but like concussion. After a concussion. So, my guess is that, it's just supposed to be a Malkavian look, kind of to make her look zany and crazy just a little bit. Yeah. The Malkavians are really interesting because, they are special. They are more in touch with things like prophecy and with, I think, like with logical leaps or something. Like they find out things no one else would even bother look for. But a whole lot of them are also just, just do random things for the hell of it, basically. So it's always fascinating. And actually in Vampire the Masquerade, Bloodlanes, so that classic Vampire the Masquerade game where people basically say, yeah, that's the game to emulate or to beat when you want to make a good Vampire the Masquerade game. They're basically also the funniest clan you can play there. The problem is the prose is so purple that when you, like, in general, people don't recommend playing the game first as Malkavian, because then you just don't understand half of what's going on. So the recommendation is play it once as one of the other clans, as a normal clan, and then for your replay go and say, hey, I'll do Malkavian now, and have some fun just by seeing how differently they see the world. M.M. Lewis, Rebellious Star, the diva who lights up Boston's night. But bringing light into a world of darkness, World of Darkness, that's what it's called, can be perilous. M.M. knows this, but she doesn't care. Okay, and now we have to choose a profile. Profile that focuses on improving attributes and a large selection of skills. It allows for a maximum number of interactions, but with less mastery. Jack of all trades. Profile that focuses on improving attributes. Wait, that. Okay. Attributes and a large selection of skills. It allows. No, wait, it didn't. Okay, now we have. So that was Jack of all trades. Investigator. Profile that focuses on knowledge and skills that allow you to go undercover, extort, or steal information. Veteran. Profile that focuses on dialogue skills and the physical attribute. It allows you to use the character's aura in conversations. Profile with no pre-attributed points. Okay, this is very RPG mechanics again. So, Vampire the Masquerade is more the classic character sheet style that you see in many RPGs. So you actually have skills and you invest points in them fairly freely, but it doesn't quite feel as mechanical as here. So this is a very, on one hand, simplified RPG mechanics, but on the other hand, also very in-your-face RPG mechanics. It's a weird combination. Like, if you remember how I played The Outer Worlds, I kind of liked being able to, you know, convince myself through. So that would be dialogue skills. But then the physical attribute sounds like the opposite of that. And I have no idea what it means to use the character's aura in conversations. Large selection of skills. It allows for a maximum number of interactions, but with less mastery. I think that would probably be too balanced for my tastes usually. Profile that focuses on knowledge and skills that allow you to go undercover. I think I'll go with Investigator for now, just because that sounds more like something I would enjoy. Because Veteran sounds too much like Warrior, so sounds like more physical attribute than dialogue skills. And I mean, Jack of all trades sounds balanced, so let's go with Investigator for now. Character sheet. At the start of a scene, previously earned experience points can be spent to improve the character's abilities. These abilities are divided in two areas, the character sheet and the discipline sheet. Attributes. Excuse me. Attributes. Each attribute affects a specific list of skills and disciplines. Attributes increase the chance of victory in case of a tie. Improving them also decreases the willpower cost of focus. Okay, those are definitely two things I would like. I like to cheat and say, hey, I focus, I win against you. Knowledge. The use of knowledge skills do not have a willpower cost. They cannot be improved by using focus. Alright. So we don't have experience available, it's just pre-assigned. Rhetoric, persuasion, psychology, technology, deduction. Physical, social, mental. Okay. And discipline menu. The discipline sheet contains the disciplines the character possesses. Discipline powers. Experience points invested in a discipline increase the level and can provide additional powers. Discipline powers can be passive and may be used in dialogue or in exploration. Alright, and we got heightened senses. Activates Auspex vision. Has no blood cost. No hunger cost. Reveals interactions related to the 5 senses. The hunger cost depends on your Auspex rating and the difficulty of the interaction. Okay. Psychometry. Auspex vision reveals interactions related to the memories of an item. The hunger cost depends on your Auspex rating and the difficulty of the interaction as well. Okay. Oh, it gives access to presence as a dialogue choice. Celerity. Activates celerity vision. Has no hunger cost. Reveals anchor points in the environment that MM can reach using blink. Blink allows you to move instantly from one anchor point to another. Generates 3 hunger. Oh, cool. So it's basically like in Dishonored, I guess. Oh, and by the way, in District 9, that with the ice, that was a great way of kind of showing what was going on. like early on. Okay, so I guess we apply. Oh, she has a swan
Hazel.
tattoo, it seems.
Delson.
Come in, MM. I wanted to have a word with you.
What can I do for you?
I'm glad you're here. It's been a long time since we last saw each other. Tell me, where were you tonight?
Like everybody else, I suppose. At home, getting ready for the party.
How fortunate you weren't running early.
Why? What's happened?
You know what the Code Red means. There was a breach. This is intolerable. These agreements were supposed to celebrate the power of my court. Instead, I've been made to look a fool in the eyes of my allies. We'll have to increase our diplomatic efforts with the Warlocks. Send new emissaries to Osborne.
What's that got to do with me?
Don't you worry about that for now. We have more urgent matters to attend to.
We?
Bring Journey to me.
Ooh, now we get to choose why, or it's not her fault. You know, this is like, on one hand, you know, if I immediately go, it's not her fault, then that kind of implies I've been thinking she's guilty as well.
What do you want with her?
I have a few questions I need to ask her. If mistakes were made, I need to know what happened. I'm sure that your friend will have a lot to tell me.
She hasn't done anything. Hazel.
I'll be the judge of that.
Alright, at least we've defended her, so, and I guess this infinity icon means it's not an alternative, okay. This dialogue tree is a bit reverse of how most adventure games do it. Because most adventure games have it, you know, with a symbol that means this exits the conversation. And some other choices are just, you know, bits of conversation that you can tick off as you want to. And here it's the reverse. The ones that don't end the conversation are marked, which tricked me a little.
Yes, my prince. I'll be right back.
I didn't bring you here just for that. I have something to offer you.
I'm listening.
It's about the Primogen Council. You know everyone who's in it. Beryl, Richard, Hilda. Their support was much appreciated after the disappearance of the previous prince.
Quentin King.
But now, they've become an obstacle. It's been going on for months. They systematically oppose everything that I do. It must stop now.
Okay, so we don't have education, so we can't actually answer this or focus it.
The Camarilla has faced many challenges in the past few years. Many of our strongholds have fallen. I won't let Boston suffer the same fate, but for that, I need loyal allies. Also, how would you like a spot in the Primogen?
What?
You've always taken care of your community, MM, without ever asking for anything in return. It might be time you took a leading role in the community's affairs.
Hilda won't let you do it. She'll never see me as her equal. Being seated next to her child? She'll feel humiliated.
I'm her prince. She will obey me.
She's not gonna like it.
I don't care. What I'm offering is much bigger than all that. What do you think?
I mean, we've heard and heard that she stayed away from the court every time. So, I mean, this is our chance to say she changes her mind? Or this is our way to say, nah, she hasn't changed yet. I think we'll go with I don't like the court for... Well, for now. I guess this will be our decision, so... You don't get an offer like that twice.
You know what I think of the court. I'm not comfortable there.
You'll get used to it quickly.
I'm not sure I want to.
It's not a question. Time is of the essence. You're a businesswoman, I know you'll be up to it, but we'll talk about it again soon. In the meantime...
I know. Jay, I'm going to go see Sylvia first. I need to clear my head.
Do it. You won't be able to hunt tonight. It's better to be prepared. Bring me Journey.
I will.
I have the utmost confidence in you, Do not fail me.
You can count on me. What the hell is going on?
Ah, now it's the bar we weren't allowed to go to earlier.
I'm happy to see you in one piece.
Hey, Syl. I'd like some refreshment, please.
Of course, I'll get you a glass.
I was thinking more like a vessel.
Oh, serve yourself. But try not to damage them, okay? They're all I've got left in stock.
I get it, I'll be careful.
I'm right here if you need anything else.
Okay, so this is interesting. So this so I didn't read vessel earlier, but I guess vessel is their flowery word of a human to drink from. And so I guess this is our tutorial for like how, you know, it wouldn't be useful to just have us drink a glass, but they want to show us the mechanics so we can, out in the world, if there is such a thing, learn to suck blood. A safe zone is a place where no one can see you feed. You can find them by exploring the surroundings. Only one prey may be sent to a safe zone at a time.
No news from anyone.
Do you think that...
Now's not the time to be thinking about that. We're not the only ones freaking out. Look around. Exactly.
Okay, so...
We've got to keep our wits about us. Got it?
There are people we cannot drink from, apparently. Okay, this is a safe zone, for instance. Prey. Prey will naturally be revealed as you approach. To feed, you will need to find a safe zone you can lure your prey to. Go after isolated prey. If it is surrounded by potential witnesses, sending the prey to a safe zone will increase suspicion of you. Ah, okay, now they've split up. So now I can get one of these, I guess. And the people back there. Okay, those are, I guess, vampires or something.
never liked this stuff before. Why would I want it in the blood I drink now?
Okay, I guess that's booze of some sort.
I really hope it's not serious.
Okay, I don't think...
Sorry, I'm a little out of it.
Good evening.
Come on. It won't take long.
Okay. Sure.
Vampires use their powers to charm or subdue their prey and satisfy their hunger. When feeding on prey, you can control the amount of blood you take. Press and hold the button to increase the amount of hunger eliminated. If you do not press the button, or if you don't release it before the bar is full, the prey will die, drained of its blood. Killing prey will increase suspicion. Mortals will be on their guard, while vampires will question your respect for the masquerade. Did I do it wrong? I think I did it wrong, didn't I? Resonance. Some prey, their blood emotionally charged, have a resonance that your character will earn after feeding. At the end of a scene, a resonance provides an experience bonus for the corresponding discipline. If more than one resonance is acquired during a given scene, only the last one acquired is saved. Second bite. If your prey survives, you may feed on it a second time. However, this will cause it to die and increase suspicion. Is he okay? He sounded a bit too...
All right, Jay. Where are you hiding? What a shitty night.
Do you think the Code Red will last much longer?
I hope not. The faster I get out of here, the better.
What? And Mem Lewis, the Black Rattler's Rose, is afraid of a handful of politicians?
God, no.
Fine. Let me know if I can do anything for you.
Miss Iverson has the top floor all to herself?
Yes, that's where she's got her office for hearings, as well as her personal quarters. Miss Bosley is the only one who has access to them.
I heard the prince put together a surveillance unit.
Yeah, the cave. Mr. Leto and his team spend their nights there. It's just below us. But don't even think about going down there. It's only for sewer rats.
Sewer rats, I think, is a term for Nosferatu. Either that or, yeah, I don't think it's for clanless. I think it was Nosferatu.
I'm supposed to find Jay. Do you know if she's done talking to April?
Huh, good question. I saw her earlier, but she wasn't with Miss Bosley. She went into that alcove on your right, but that was a while ago.
Thanks.
You might want to avoid hanging around with her, you know? I've heard stuff about her.
I know, and it's not true. She didn't do anything, all right?
Fine. Sorry. Did you need anything else?
Thanks for the vessel.
My pleasure. Come back anytime you want.
So I wonder if I did this right or if I goofed here. That alcove on the right. Oh, I guess there's one.
I know that perfume. Jay.
Why is she sleeping? Okay. Oh, Auspex. What does that? Heightened senses. Auspex enhances your 5 senses. This condition reveals new interactions, detecting scents, listening to conversations from a distance, revealing the past of objects, or even experiencing premonitions. You can also discover items that have been hidden using supernatural powers.
We're all gonna die.
Okay. That's not good. Can I Auspex him?
April's gonna kill us.
Okay, so I guess we're reading her thoughts. Oh, what's this?
Where did you go, Jay?
Okay. I can follow her. Oh, and this is open.
Underwood
as well.
and Fang. Bazori's ears must be burning.
I didn't think I'd see you again so soon. Did you want something, perhaps?
You haven't seen Journey, have you?
She's not here. It would be a shame if you've showed up too late.
Okay. So we can't intimidate him. We could... No, we can't persuade him. Because we're 1 and he's 4. So, yeah, we can't go that far up.
You rotten son of a bitch. I don't have time for this.
If you say so. The pleasure was mine, Mem. Say hello to your sire for me.
Alright.
Everything's
Leave
gonna
note.
be fine.
Internal memo. Dear all. Please don't forget that if you have any issues with the archives, you need to contact Lazarus, not me. Thank you. April.
Hey, Fang.
Good evening, Miss Lewis.
Call me a ma'am, please. Did you come with Caleb?
Yes, but he's so very busy.
You didn't happen to see Journey, did you?
I'm sorry. I don't know everyone's names yet.
Okay, what's back there? Oh, can we listen to him?
Keltum and Lazarus. I smell gossip.
Costs me another 2. I'm getting close to hunger.
This can't be happening.
I swear, she was standing there, playing me for a sucker. pretending. She just happened to be in the archives.
And what did you say to her?
I played dumb. I said, as you like, Miss Abigail Naomi. And I left.
I hope he's all right.
A page from a file about an old party that she tore out.
But why would she need that? Why now?
I wonder.
Okay, so I guess we found out about that. Okay, I guess she talked to her secretary.
Is it Kala Saw? Jay always got along well with her sire. Lucky bitch.
Recover search history. I asked for our retainers to arrive before sunset for more discretion. I'm still waiting for that paper.
Her last message to Abigail.
I need you to track down the file on the 1998 solstice party. Page 3 should be of interest to you.
The file.
Okay.
I wonder where they put it. That could be of interest to me.
Susie and the Pyrrhics. It's not how I expected that to continue. All right. It's interesting, she just stopped here and I don't know why. So I guess she went to see April?
Oh, you again. What do you want?
April, have you seen Jay anywhere?
You can't let her out of your sight for 2 seconds.
The prince sent me to get her.
I can't discuss that with you.
They're close. No, I can't really get anywhere close to that. But I can ask all of these, okay?
Not that I think in a million years this is what happened, but what if Jay messed up somehow? What would happen to her?
Depends on the mistake. And how bad the consequences were. At best, the prince will be mad. At worst,
destruction?
Yeah. There's a good chance of that.
You can tell me. My lips are sealed.
The only way I can make sure you don't talk is to keep my own lips sealed.
Fine. I won't insist. If you see her, tell her I'm looking for her.
Yeah, sure.
What attitude? It's a good thing I was careful earlier.
The interesting thing about this art is that that a lot of it includes photos. Whereas
What a disaster.
the characters themselves, of course, are stylized. And it's... I don't know, on one hand it's kind of cute. On the other hand, it would be kind of... interesting to have, or rather, you know, it would... These characters look very realistic when you see them in the context of their game. But as soon as you see them next to actual photos, you see like where they exaggerated certain features, you know, like how unrealistic the skin tone is, things like that. So I think it would actually have been better if they had actually taken these pictures and did them in the same stylized fashion instead of using actual photos. What's quite convenient is doors just open when you walk through them. Okay, so that's just the start. We walked backwards. Right? We left her. She went to see April, then moved on to her assistant's computer and told the other woman, Abby, to go in there. So I
Jay
guess
was looking for a file that Jara took from the archives. Interesting.
Okay, so that didn't really help either. So we just heard from him. Keltome Humdum. Whatever that is. So we heard from
Everything's
him.
gonna be fine. Calm down.
So I guess we can go into the archives.
They can't hurt me.
Oh, we need a swipe card for that. Where do we see? Do we see a swipe card anywhere?
Everything's gonna be fine. Calm down.
She's a little in your face. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be we can do something with her, you know, convince her or something.
I hope you didn't forget anything, Jay.
Menu reservation setup, invitations, limo reservation, red salon vessels. Scene with Dr. Dunham, okay. Servant security, okay. 2 more needed. Food for vessels and servants, check with Abby. Check the level of secrecy, Jara, okay. Guest list, unification party. Iverson Coates, Underwood, Rory was mentioned as one of the Primogen, McAndrews, Dunham, Siaka, Leto, Basery, Sellers, Lewis, so we were there. Bosley, I think now these are names we haven't heard. Osborne, Hartford Chantry. Accompanying guests. Moore? Which was mentioned earlier. What was it with Moore? There was something with Moore. Huh, I don't know anymore. Moore was one... Oh, right. Moore is the human. And one of his people found something that caused this red alert. Or Code Red, or whatever it was called. Dupree, Carr, Pruitt. Ask Dr. Drummond for the list of vessels from the Red Salon. Vessels, I'm going all Chekhov now. Staff, Bosley, Nurmi, Sheridan, Lazarus, okay. Journey Atkins, Keltum, Hamden, that's the guy in whose room Lazarus is right now. Frank James, Cottrell, okay. Club business cards, okay. I don't think I see anything else here, so I guess let's talk to these people. Oh, so I guess we have to interrupt them.
I hope he's alright. It's locked.
Ah, okay. So we can't actually talk to them. And I think we've auspexed as much as we can. So, okay, we know where she came from. Oh, he's here now?
What the hell could have happened? Can I help you?
Do you still work for April?
Well, aren't you rude? My loyalty is with the court.
Seems like Bosley's leading you around by the nose, though.
She's got some extra responsibilities, sure, but that's it. I have my own agenda.
Mm-hmm. I'm not surprised. I've got to talk to Jay. You haven't seen her, have you?
No, you should ask April.
Already did. Didn't get much out of her.
Oh, I don't know what to tell you.
I'll manage. Thanks. I've got stuff to do. See you later.
Okay.
The trail ends there. Where could she have gone after that?
I mean, this looks like a path, but of course we haven't talked to her yet. I guess she's a vessel?
You want to...
Okay. We just know that she went in there and took a snack and then went here. But there's no way to go in there for us. Because curtains. I wonder if we can... talk to Sylvia again?
Yes?
Okay, we can't.
What now?
Okay. So she seems to be quite unhappy.
I never liked this stuff before. Why would I want it in the blood I drink now?
Me is confused. Oh, you haven't talked to him again? Maybe?
I'm sorry about before. I'm just a little edgy tonight.
I know. This isn't the first time we've gotten in a fight over nothing. Your child, Imani, she was there. Still no news?
No. Radio silence.
And Hazel refuses to talk to me.
I spent months kowtowing to those Hartford assholes for this agreement. If she has the info, now's not the time to hold it back.
These Hartford guys, how well do you know them?
Well enough. I won't let things end like that.
You told me you knew the Hartford Warlocks well.
Yeah, some of them.
I was in touch with their representative, Deneb. He was supposed to replace me on the council.
You're leaving us?
Not really. It's part of the agreement with the Chantry. Deneb and I were supposed to switch places.
Why was Hazel doing business with them?
She had plans for the blood market in the region. We were meant to be in charge of supplying high-quality blood. They were supposed to take care of stabilizing it, or try at least.
That's nuts. Has anyone ever tried it before?
Never. That's why I'm worried. I don't give a shit about Hartford, but this project is really important.
I understand. I'm looking for Journey. Have you seen her?
No, I'm sorry. I assume you've already tried her office?
Well, I'll leave you to it. I've got to find Jay.
If I see Journey, I'll tell her you're looking for her.
Yes?
You're walking like an NPC. Okay, so how do I get a key card?
Miss Lewis.
I hope it'll work out.
Okay. Oh, that's Lazarus's.
I've gotta hurry. I'm not supposed to be here.
Oh. There's the key card. Is there anything else in there?
Calm down.
Well, don't think so. Okay, so...
Shit.
Jay, what were you doing in the archives?
Hartford Unification by Jared Rory. That's the thing we found out on the other spot. Prince's birthday party, history of the court, about Gale Bassery. I'm sorry, I can't remember how to pronounce him right. I keep pronouncing him like Madame Bathory. Bathory, or I don't know. Just random pronunciation, even though they're pronouncing it differently. Okay, there's a key code thing. And I guess she was here somewhere. Does open. We're getting close.
A file about a party from a few years ago. It's the one Journey asked Abigail to look at.
Okay, how does this... only keyboard works, you can't click it. At the request of our Prince Quentin King, the winter solstice will be celebrated at his home on the 21st of December for the entire night. At his behest, his celebration will be inspired by the masquerades in the European pagan calendar. Invitation message approved by our Prince, your esteemed Prince of Boston, Quentin King, does you the distinct honor of inviting you to the winter solstice celebration at his home. Inspired by pagan masquerades, please come accompanied and above all masked. You will be able to pledge your respects and allegiance to your revered prince throughout the longest night of the year. You are expected at 7:30 p.m. on 12/21/98. Please note refusal is not an option. The safety of N+1s is not guaranteed. Okay. That sounds rather ominous. That sounds like he's saying, well, bring someone. He first says bring come accompanied, and then it says the safety of N+1s is not guaranteed. So the question is, does N+1 mean +2, +3, +4? Or does it mean you're +1? So if it just means a regular +1, then that means he's saying bring someone expendable. Which doesn't sound good.
Page 3 was torn out. There are traces of blue ink on page 2.
Okay. So I guess we're doing this with the Auspex. It's the last thing we can afford to do before we go crazy, I think.
A file about a party from a few years ago. Page 3 was torn out. There are traces of blue ink on page 2.
Okay, that didn't work. Oh. Now we're tracing the blue trail. Okay. Oh.
They can't hurt me.
Who is that? Abigail is that? Okay. Oh, she burned it.
This is the connection between the email and the file from the archives. Journey asked Abigail to meet her in an alcove at the bar. Abigail, we've got to talk. Battery's dead.
Who's that? That's someone we've seen before. Isn't... Huh. Don't remember who that was. Iverson's request. Domain administration. This report provides a summary of Mr. J. Moore's annual audit of the finances and administration of Ms. Iverson's domain. The data provided by our wealth manager leads us to conclude that the accounting year was balanced for this year. The absence of any substantial profit is explained in part by the investments made in the development of the Red Salons, namely development and expansion of the Red Salon on Cellar Street owned by Dr. Richard Dunham, purchase of... I think Dunham was the one who provided people for the party. Purchase of lab equipment, refrigerated cabinets, decoration and expansion of the bar area. Investment in Dr. Dunham's research, external laboratory expenses, specific mortal test subjects. Purchase of several real estate properties for the expansion of the Red Salon chain. Another portion of the profits was transferred to the Hartford Chantry to support thaumaturgy research, as stipulated in the pre-unification agreements. Mr. J. Moore reported that in July he had requested a detailed account of the expenses incurred, which appears to have corrected some of the occasional excesses in their estimates. In this respect, we would like to emphasize that, given his success in protecting our interests, it's strongly recommended. Wait, I need to scroll. That Mr. J. Moore's personal protection be maintained for the coming year. Mr. J. Moore's recommendations for 2019: expansion of the real estate portfolio in the neighborhoods adjacent to the domain. Mr. J. Moore has managed to convince the about 30 owners to stagger the acquisition throughout the year. The projected investment is 60 million with an actual value of 82 million. Development of the Red Salons. Continued investment in Dr. Dunham's research, but with the establishment of a financial administrator in the person of Mr. Underwood to manage the financial aspects of the sites. Continued funding of the Hartford thaumaturgy research. On this subject, Mr. J. Moore recommends that unification agreements with Hartford Chantry stipulate that this research be relocated to Boston following the signature of the agreements. In fact, he thinks it's preferable to monitor the amounts involved as closely as possible. Interesting. Okay.
I hope he's all right.
So interesting, we only got a trail of Abby to her place and no more. Okay. So where was Abby? Was here, I think. Was that a picture of herself in her room?
Can I help you?
I told you I was looking for Jay earlier. And? I found the note she left you. I wonder what April would say if I showed it to her.
You went through my stuff?
Is that all you're worried about?
No. It wasn't personal. Journey was in a panic. She asked me for the pass to get into Jar's apartment.
Did she say why?
Only that she was looking for evidence. I didn't really get it. Let's keep this between us, all right? April's got other fish to fry.
I'll see about that. I'm going to find her. Jara's apartment. That's on the Primogen floor. What was Jay looking for up there?
Yes?
So... okay, that's how it works, right. I have to go in there first, and now they're available again. By the way, can I save? No. Okay, but it's actually... we're actually a good chunk into the second half of the stream, so this is probably where we'll take our break. But this is interesting so far. I like the mechanics we have there so far. It's all a bit, you know, technically a number crunchy for my tastes, but I hope it doesn't get a lot more complicated than that. Then I can hopefully deal with it. The graphics are not too bad. Yeah, the graphics are okay. You know, it helps that they knew how much to stylize. I find the movements of the characters are fairly stiff. If I had to guess, I would say that they, bought some pre-made animations or something, or, hired someone to just stand there and do, like, certain movements and motions that they needed, and then put them on all the characters or something like that. It feels very pieced together. It doesn't feel like they had an actor doing each scene, and maybe even different actors for different characters. And I don't know if that's how I'm capturing it or whatever, but it also feels to me like or if that's an OBS issue here, that the lip sync is a little bit off. Yeah, we have way higher expectations now stemming from large AAA games.
We're the Harvard
Yeah.
Warlocks. No. They wouldn't dare.
But it's a perfectly serviceable game. It's of course you can say that it's an interesting world it is set in, and so far they seem to be aware of that and be doing a really good job. Slowly, mysteriously guiding you in there, and I love that it's basically it has this Sherlock Holmes approach.
It's a disaster.
So, I like that. So, yeah. Let's take our quick break. Remember, get up, stretch, and do other things. And I'll see you in 5 minutes. It's so buggy, it's so duddy, it's so barky and quirky and bugged. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Oh no, it keeps following Basim.
Need to cloak myself.
Which will make the stealthing here a lot funnier.
I prefer to work in the shadows.
Well, you apparently prefer to cooperate with a horse. What the fuck? Okay.
What do you see?
Your daughter hungry? I have bread.
We're no fools. What do you want in return?
Nothing. I have a little girl of my own at home. The same age.
Give it here then, and quick about it. Can't have anyone seen me hobnobbing with a Briton.
Nice. Hobnobbing with a Briton. So here goes nothing. Ooh, no, that didn't work. I hope it remembers that we did the whole orange thing and doesn't make me do it again. Oh, it kept... No, it didn't keep it. Aw. One trick you can do with the larger ones of those is you can put them on a table, so this would be like the tabletop, and then the rings in the back are just large enough that you can like put like a USB cable or something through it that you've plugged into your computer, and it will kind of protect it from like falling down once you unplug it or something. So if you have like I don't know, like a keyboard that you hook up to your laptop or something, you can guide the cables so they don't hang around wildly and keep them from falling off the table when they're not plugged in. And ages ago I bought this little box full of those. Iconoclast trauma kit. Was that last item? sounded like euthanasia kit or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, I hate reloading. I mean, it's my fault for not stopping to shoot, but still. Earlier, so I kind of know there will be interaction, and in this game it's odd, but it feels pretty good. Whoops. That's new. Okay. Yeah, that's how the interactions work in this game. Okay, there seem to be a bunch of dead bodies. Skulls or something down there. That's weird. So as long as I hold the mouse button, I can't do, like, I can't move or anything. And so I went like, well, you know, if I want to do something fancy, like, you know, being able to go here and then say, hey, this is important, like some streamers do it, then I can do that. And can probably do that better. Like right now, this is all using the 1080p webcam, and what I've basically done is I just, like, you know, pulled it larger. You know, so it gets more pixelated and more fuzzy. I just miss the music. Do 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 do. You know, they're okay. Like, the cheese is probably the most useful and my most favorite of those, because it's just, you know, like, it's an actual object that you can sort of recognize until you look at it too long, and then you go like, is it a skull, like, lying or something? I didn't notice the boxing glove here. That's a nice detail, by the way.
This might come in handy.
Don't do that again.
I like that, you know, he just, like, if he has to walk past Max, he just throws him up in the air. You know, it's both, like, a fun characterization of these characters and of, you know, like, how recklessly they, like, you know, Max is basically treated in all these games.